Harry and Harry's Wife. Analysis, Part 1. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and you join me now on my quest, one which demonstrates resilience and forbearance, and, of course, demonstrating particularly strong intestinal fortitude, as I experience, in inverted commas, the newly released episodes of Harry and Harry's Wife on Netflix. Ordinarily, this is not a program that I would watch. However, it provides such a useful opportunity to examine further the behaviour of a narcissist and her victim. It enables us to understand and study the whys, the wherefores, the whats, in respect of her behaviour. It enables us to see the dynamic between the two of them. Why Harry behaves as he does, what motivates his behaviour to cause him to act in such an unpleasant and traitorous way. It also allows us to understand more of her dynamic with other people and the dynamic of the duo, although they're not a dynamic duo, with other people also. So there really are riches which are only afforded to you as a consequence of my excellent insight. Let me tell you now, what I've watched so far would put you in a coma. It's boring. It's really boring. Nevertheless, what you're going to hear is not boring in the slightest. Why? Well, of course, it involves me, your glorious narrator, and I am many things, but I'm never boring. Moreover, I will ensure that it's spiced up in terms of entertaining explanations, but moreover, what you will learn from my observations and insight will help you understand more about these two, and also, of course, as always, about narcissism in general terms. Before I get into the actual meat, although I suppose in a way that's putting it a little bit high, of the episodes, it's worthwhile some initial observations about all of this. One thing that is hugely important to always remember throughout this is that the entire thing is stage managed. This isn't a simple case of Harry's wife larking around and somebody else happened to film her on their phone, and then one day that friend said, "Hey, gosh, she's become famous. I've got some early footage of her. Would you be interested in seeing it?" Of course she would know that she's being filmed, but she wouldn't know the purpose of it. She would just think it's larking about between friends. For instance, what if somebody had covertly filmed her, so she had no idea that that was going on? That, of course, would allow us particular insight into her behaviours and would invariably allow you to see those behaviours that occur behind the facade. But it's important to understand, with the entirety of this clusterfuck of a shit show, is that it's all stage managed. Now, of course, everybody puts on a front to an extent. For instance, if you know you're having your photo taken, you might try and ensure that your best side is presented, or that you give a radiant smile. If you know that you're being filmed, and you're in the middle of putting your hand somewhere where it shouldn't be, you may well retract your hand. All people will adjust their behaviour if they know that there is a record of it being made. Some people adjust it in order to protect themselves. Other people play up to the camera, hamming it up, acting the fool. However, when the narcissist is being filmed and photographed, it's different, because, of course, there's the necessity of control. And the narcissist utilises where he or she is being filmed or photographed as a means, as always, of course, to get to the prime aims. To use the recordings, whatever form they take, to control other people, to present a facade where the narcissist operates with one, and, of course, to draw fuel. There may also be the opportunity to acquire the residual benefit of money and perhaps fame and status as a consequence of behaving in a particular way. It's also worth bearing in mind, of course, that so much television that purports to be live and reality is heavily edited. It's scripted. Those of you who have followed, for instance, The X Factor, Pop Idol, America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, those types of programmes, will be fully familiar with Ermintrude from Grimethorpe appearing to sing a song in late memory of her grandma, who just died recently as a consequence of a tragic wardrobe malfunction. Her scarf got caught in the door of a car and garrotted her. Cue tears all around as poor Ermintrude relates this tragic tale, thus getting the audience on side with her. At each tale we learn about the fact that she was reliant upon her late grandmother to pay the heating, and now she has to go down to the local slag heap to pick up coal in order to heat her house. Many people fall for this. They think, oh gosh, yes, I'm supporting Ermintrude because she's got such a sad story. Often in these instances, the stories are completely fabricated or they're exaggerated. And it's all done on the basis of good, in inverted commas, television. It's there to entertain. We know that in decades past, quiz shows were set up so that somebody would win. The particular programmes were organised in a way so that it presented a particular picture to entertain the audience. Because if you were going for true reality, leaving aside the behaviour of narcissists, most reality television actually would be rather boring indeed, with a lot of nothing happening much at all. Indeed, it puts me in mind of the line from the film Collateral, where the police officer, where they're staking out a nightclub, says, "We've seen some people go, we see some people come, but largely we're watching air move." And that's the thing with reality television. If it was true to its purpose, much of the time very little would actually be occurring, and then what did occur would be mundane and boring. Unfortunately for this programme, despite the fact that it's stage managed, it still is boring. But it's very important for you to remember that all of this is being done to present, utilising one of Harry's wife's favourite words, a narrative. It is done to present what she wants the world to see. Every look to camera, every word that's spoken, every bleary-eyed reflection, every tear squeezed from that left eye go, all of it's done because she knows that this is going into some form of documentary, that she knows that it's being recorded. And therefore, even in the ordinary scheme of things, it would not have the, using another favourite word of Harry's wife, authenticity that you might expect. Factor into it also the fact that she, of course, is a narcissist. Then what you are then left with is the fact that she ends up providing you with a state of affairs whereby it's even more manufactured. Because everything that she does, everything that she says, everything that she does in terms of facial expression, activity, is governed by her narcissism to pursue the prime aims, to control the audience, to control the interviewer, to ensure that she is able to draw fuel from the reactions and to manage that facade. Remember, her facade is that of victim, kind, empathic individual who has been badly done to and has never harmed anybody in her life. This is a stage-managed production. What purpose does it all serve? Well, once again, it serves the purpose of the prime aims. For Harry, he believes it provides some validation for him in terms of what he's had to deal with. Remember that he has that narcissistic trait of resentment, those narcissistic traits of anger and argumentativeness, pride and envy. And therefore he does have something of an axe to grind with his family, because he still believes that they were complicit in some shape or form in the death of his mother. And, of course, he regularly brings up his deceased mother. It's also the fact that he has swallowed the Kool-Aid that has been poured in his direction by his wife, which is this: they hate me, and without justification. They harangue me because they're racist. They're pursuing an orchestrated campaign of hate against me. And you must protect me. You must ensure that I am protected because your mother was not protected. And do you want me to end up in the same place as she is. Remember, Harry does love his wife. It's misguided, but he does. And therefore his empathic traits, in that regard of caring and compassion, are directed to try and protect his wife and his children. She plays on this. Her narcissism does so. So for Harry, it's about validation, and he believes it's about telling their story because they're misunderstood. What he's failed to see as a consequence of 1, the bubble in which he's lived most of his life, 2, his emotional thinking, and 3, his low cognitive function, is that all he is doing is regurgitating what his wife has told him, and he believes it's legitimate. He believes that doing this, notwithstanding the fact that it may well cause problems for many other people, is justified because they did it to us first. They did it to us first. This is the raison d'etre of lesser and mid-range narcissists, particularly mid-range, which Harry's wife is, of seeing themselves as the eternal victims. I've not done anything to anybody else. They started it first. They came after me. They hated on me without cause. We all know from the evidence that's not the case. But Harry's wife has caused Harry to believe that the two of them are entirely innocent, and that everything that they do thereafter is justified as a consequence of the way that they have been treated by the institution that is the royal family, the media, and the public at large. Is there anything interesting for them to tell us? The short answer, and on what I've seen so far, is no. We are not dealing with two intrinsically interesting people. Prince Harry is a bit of a dunderhead, but was affable and likeable until the spider came along. She is the Duchess of Industrial Beige, utterly devoid of interest, talent, or charisma. You might think to yourself, well, I'd like to know what goes on behind the scenes. Why? They've been spewing it on a near daily basis for the last few years. You're not going to learn anything new. You're not going to learn, for instance, something about the creative process of somebody that's got talent, for she has none. You're not going to get a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to be a prince. Instead, you're being treated to this. We are the victims. We want to whine about it yet again and tell you how much of victims we are, and you all then have to understand that we are the victims. There is really nothing of interest to sell to us, in effect. Finally, what's their story? Well, they bang on about saying it's our love story. Well, do we really need to know that? Do we really need to know? You're not that interesting or prominent, and that's a private matter. But of course, remember, with her lack of boundary recognition, sense of entitlement and absence of accountability, she believes that everybody wants to know about the love story, and Harry has also been persuaded by her that the world wants to know. So all in all, a huge amount of money has been paid for a dunderheaded prince and a completely talent-free zone to talk about a love story. Well, love stories are hardly unique, and it isn't truly a love story because it involves a narcissist, from two individuals who haven't anything new or interesting to say other than continuing their victim narrative. And therefore, in the circumstances, the appropriate way to look at this is within that framework that I've just described to you, that we understand the backdrop against this docuseries, and I say that with some hesitation, being set. With those key points made, let us now embark upon the analysis of episode 1.